Admit it, Benson.
No, you're not cool.
How about now, Benson?
If you're not a fan of the show, you're fired. Hey, what's up, baby girl? It's your boy D-Dubman of ReviewYaLife. And what I bring to you today is a review that has been long overdue. And I hope I'm doing it first, the complete series of Regular Show. Oh! But before we get started with this, we'll have to step back to this cult classic, then we'll talk about this. Let's go. As all of you may know by this point, Regular Show didn't just spawn out of thin air. It was a growing process from college animator James Garland Quintel in 2005, where a Cal Arts project done with Sam Marin led to the creation of The Naive Man from Lollyland that featured the soon-to-be-known character Pops trying to make transactions with candy. He was nominated for many awards for this short at the time, which eventually landed him a job at Cartoon Network being a storyboard artist for 2005 show Camp Lazlo. He also did internship on Star Wars The Clone Wars the year before. All was going pretty good for the young creator, winning awards, a noteworthy job, bitches probably, but his creative juices were still going. So in 2006, him and his friend Sam Marin again decided to create a little short together called 2 in the AM PM. That he later entered into Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation in 2007. This short, putting it into a few words, is just Regular Show on drugs.
Don't worry, dude. I didn't put any weed in this candy. It was acid.
What? Acid? What the fuck is wrong with you?
The short also features soon-to-be-known characters Mordecai and Benson. Quintel went to work on known projects such as Horton Hears a Who and Phineas and Ferb, but the most notable work he's done around 2008 was something special: The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. That's right, Flapjack. And he didn't just work alone. Pillington Ward, Alex Hirsch, Patrick McHale, and Chris Riccardi. All these cartoon juggernauts in the same room on the same show? Fuck yeah. I could go on how Flapjack paved the way for these current show creators, but I'm going to review that very soon anyway, so I'll save the story for there. Anyway, also in 2008, he visually pitched a new idea Regular Show to Cartoon Network's Cartoon Institute project with a storyboard, instead of the tradition verbally. And in 2009, as Cartoon Network ordered more episodes of Flapjack, Quintel's concept got greenlit along the way. The show he pitched was about these two slackers, Mordecai the Blue Jay and Rigby the raccoon, being groundskeepers at a local park, who entertain their jobs by not doing their jobs, which always backfires in the worst ways possible. And trust me, the original concept he had for this show was pretty terrible. He presented the concept to none other than Craig McCracken and Rob Rossetti, of all people, and boy, did they love it. Now, speeding up time to 2 years later, 2010 marked a new era for the Cartoon Network brand. The Check It bumpers were introduced, replacing the previous nudes. Adventure Time, Ben 10, Ultimate Alien, Generator Rex, and Symbiotic Titan premiered. Cartoon Network Studios got a revamp, Johnny Test had his reruns, and we lost Chowder and Flapjack with a series finale. A Regular Show was also involved with this series of change, making its debut after Mad on September 6, 2010.
Don't look at our crotches while we synchronize our watches! Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep.
So now that we're caught up with the setup, I can now start the review based off of production, main plot, and yes, even nostalgia, like I do with the rest of this series. So without any further ado, let's get right into the production. some of you guys may know, I don't hold back when talking about a show's production. Mucha Lucha is a prime example of this. But that's not to say that this show is horrible because of it. So let me break down a couple of things. I don't think regular show really looks appealing to kids 9 and below. I think the characters are somewhat cool to look at, but the overall scenery is probably just a bore. That being said, I enjoyed the first day it premiered, and I was 13 at the time. It just had an internet comedy charm to it, you know? And I'm also sure the age groups onwards disregard the animation in general, and trade for the jokes instead. The show's production process is actually quite interesting. Quintel went out of his way and rounded up a bunch of independent comic book artists to work and storyboard for the show while making a name for themselves in the process. And the animation process of the show is pretty cool as well, with the storyboard for each episode being told in animatic form. And as Cartoon Network approves the episode to be made, they send it off to South Korea where the actual production and animation elements are taking place. And once that's finished, the final version of the episode is sent back to the States to add sound effects and music and additional polishing. That way, getting dozens of episodes out the way can make for a simpler process. Speaking of sound design, by the way, the music produced in the show was done by none other than Mark Mothersbaugh. But they done been, I don't know who that is. Ooh. They also used a lot of licensed 80s music as well, including You're the Best Around, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, We're Not Gonna Take It, Footloose, Eddie Murphy's Party All the Time, and We Are the Champions. So their soundtrack is pretty jam-packed with hits that I'm sure is easier to obtain the rights to than current music. It also helps that I already knew what most of these songs were due to Guitar Hero, so I enjoyed them all. Voice acting for the show is pretty standard, and by that I mean there were no Tom Kennys or Tara Strongs. Not that that's a bad thing, but they did get by with who they had, which was basically the people who helped create the show. J.G. Quintel, as you know, voices Mordecai and various other background characters. Sam Marin does Pops, Muscle Man, and Benson. Minty Lewis does Eileen, and the GOAT, the God, the Bro, Mark Hamill does Skips. And he's not just a one-time role. He's a reoccurring character. I'm really interested in the story on how Quintel got Mark on board, whether it was just all business or he was just a totally cool guy. Anyway, that's not the only guest appearance happening on the show. We also have Steve Bloom, Apollo Creed, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Terry Crews, Velma from the Scooby-Doo movies, I'ma Put My Foot in Your Ass, Tim Curry, the black lady who doesn't like Josh, Keith David, Donald Glover, and last but not least, Tyler the Creator, 9 months prior to the Yonkers hype. Now that's dedication. Now please excuse me while I fan out for a second. Bliss Comet on the scene, step to me and you're gonna get creamed, corn. You get the point. Regular show was for cool people. Coming to an end of production, everything was drawn out on paper instead of using a modern drawing tablet provided. J.G. Quintel went out of his way to make the show different from the norm. And boy, that's saying something due to all the Cal Arts memes that's going on right now. Nothing in this show stands out, from their watercolor backgrounds to the normal looking characters that have no wow factors to them. More than likely the show is made this way to have the viewers pay attention to dialogue more than visuals, but for most people that may not be their cup of tea. So with that, production gets a 7 out of 10.
We're gonna head out. Yeah, losers. Takes more than expired soda to have a party. It takes guests with breasts, and mine don't count.
If you falter in the slightest, it will literally shred all of your muscles, leading, of course, to an instant agonizing death.
Talk about a double-edged sword.
Oh, he's going behind the head for the hand clasp. I think he's gonna do it. I think he's...
Easy!
The main plot to regular show is kinda funny, because there isn't one. It's really just a cartoon, but with an ongoing agenda. The show's main premise is these two slackers, slacking, and a lot of stupid stuff just happens. They have no control over it most of the time, so it's like the universe just wants to keep them down. And the only upside to it is they usually find a way to solve the consequences, and still proceed to get scolded at without having a proper punishment. Well, except for the Mordecai saga, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The show actually has some neat side events happening that proceeds to other episodes sometimes, which means it isn't the traditional "that's all folks." It carries a plot until there's an actual solution. With a prime example being Thomas, the guy I thought was just a simple one-off character turned into something more as the show progressed. Unless they improv the fuck out of him from the beginning. Which brings me into another topic, improving. This show wasn't ran off of a lore or a convoluted story. It just ran off of one concept, putting irony into the show's title. Haven't you guys noticed that regular show isn't a regular show? Especially when the two main characters of the show are anthropomorphic beings, walking around other strange things like it's just normal. The staff spitball ideas by putting concepts into a hat and write an episode strictly off of what they pulled out, which is how regular show kinda started off. And the dialogue of the show is no different. Conversations between characters are made to feel real and natural and relatable, just like the real life stuff.
But Sasquatch is not a killer.
Maybe, but he definitely went in a fight with a dinosaur.
A two-headed dinosaur?
Two-headed or not.
But the dinosaur would be twice the size and made for fighting. Bigfoot doesn't have the killer instinct.
3 words, dude. Pea-sized brain.
And most important of all, Quintel just wanted to have fun with this series. And boy, did he ever. Now, let's just slow things down a bit for some of the character arcs for this cartoon. Muscleman's relationship with Starla. Tecmo getting upgrades. Benson coming out of his shell. Why Skips is immortal. Pops not being entirely weird. Rigby and Eileen shipping. And last but not least, Mordecai cringe. If you're not aware of this meme by this point, Mordecai is terrible with the ladies. So much to the fact that he stopped people from watching the show. But it's not just him being a bad guy. A lot of stuff just so happens to mess things up. And his decision making skills are just terrible. If you have Rigby of all people giving you relationship advice, you know you're fucking up. It's too much to explain his certain love triangle in question, but bear with me, it's not for the faint of heart. So going back to main plot alone, there's no need for one, because everyone in the show has their own lives, and giving certain characters their own individual episodes proves this. But most of the time, the supernatural takes over to spice things up a bit. I always thought that regular show was called regular show because they were walking and talking animals, and that was the basic knowledge of the joke. But upon investigation, it's called regular show because it's anything but. So with that, main plot gets a 9 out of 10. Now on to nostalgia. Wait, this show just ended. How can you have nostalgia already? Shut up. Not only has regular show made teens aware of how life is in an adult perspective, but it gives you a grand look on how to treat relationships in multiple ways. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I stopped watching this show on cable after season 6, episode 22. At that point, I just got tired of seeing Mordecai losing. Plus, the week after that was the Steven Universe Uncle Grandpa special crossover, so I had better stuff to watch at the time. But once I got the news that the show was coming to an end, and they was having a movie, I had to catch up. Here on ReviewYaLife, I like to mention movies briefly, and what I can say about the regular show movie is, it's the first animated Cartoon Network film since Ed, Edd n Eddy's Big Picture Show, and that's a big title to carry. But I liked it overall. My only pet peeve about it is, it doesn't look like a movie. Most of the assets they took to make it was from the base show, so I guess all I expected was just some dynamic shading or letterbox, I don't know, probably they meant to make it look like this way. Also, the plot of it is very convoluted, in a hilarious way. You'll enjoy it if you haven't seen it. Anyway, the series ended off with Season 8, Regular Show in Space, which sounds pretty stupid on paper, but all these episodes are connected. Also, they became self-aware of the Mordecai cringe era, so I give them a pass on this one.
You started off really strong, but when Mordecai started dating Margaret, things leveled off a little. I was always more of a CJ fan myself.
The series' conclusion ends pretty sadly, which added more emotion to this being the end. And don't worry, I won't spoil it for you guys, because it's pretty juicy. Pops blows up, and everything is back to normal, after the crew and Eileen was shot into space in a dome prison. A time lapse of everyone's lives is shown afterwards, while David Bowie plays. Nice touch, and we get one last glimpse of Mordecai and Rigby doing what they do best, being Mordecai and Rigby, which wrapped a neat little bow around its 6-year series. Overall, I really enjoyed the show growing up throughout my mid and high school years. It sounds everyone else who enjoys innuendo comedy as much as I do. Out of all the cartoons throughout the years of my lifetime, none of them really spoke to me like regular show. Well, besides Kim Possible and Jake Long, but that's another story. So with that, nostalgia gets a 10 out of 10, which concludes my review of Regular Show. JG Quintel has been staying under the radar as of late since the end of the series, but he's currently working on a new show on TBS called Close Enough, and from the clips that are shown, the art style is from the last show, but with the comedy aged up a bit, so the chains are off. I seriously can't wait. Quintel has always secretly taught us new generation of creators that you can pitch anything, any way, as long as it's seen and not just heard. Make it work. I'm surprised to this day on how much JG Quintel got away with while creating this show, and made me realize that 30 people can make it in this world too. So naughty artists, don't be afraid to pitch your ideas. Just ask Rebecca Shook, poke me on Twitter to see my next video get delayed, subscribe to earn the right to say the N-word 3 times, and look out for my next major review in June. That is unless Tekken 7 gets in the way. This has been DWN of Review Your Life, and this video is sponsored by Channel Frederated. See ya.